Please give a big, warm welcome to Jackie Gingrich Cushman.
Thank you. I am so excited to be here. Tony Ann, thank you so much for your introduction. I have great memories of Texas. It's a wonderful state. And Austin, I've got to say, it's one of the most beautiful places in the world. So I'm sure, as you know, right? But I'd like to thank Anna Lee for having me here. And I've got to say, being here, meeting people, chatting about where you've been and what you've done, I really feel like I've come back home. This organization and your involvement are so very important to our nation. As Thomas Jefferson said, all tyranny needs to gain a foothold is for people of good conscience to remain silent. This is not a silent group, and for that, I am so glad. But it's important, I think, if you think about our nation, we're on a journey. Where our nation will end up depends on us, our ability to speak up, to inspire, and to remind others what our nation is about and how we should move forward. As the Declaration of Independence states, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those is life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's what we're about today, pursuing our happiness. But our future in America is predicated on America's understanding and their belief that everyone has an equal opportunity to pursue their happiness. I think that's very important. As she mentioned, my first political memory, it goes back several decades. It was in 1974. My dad, Newt Gingrich, ran against Jack Flint, who at the time was the dean of the Georgia delegation. With no real statewide Republican Party in Georgia, someone might have told him it wasn't a good idea. But my dad is a big dreamer, as we write about, so he ran for that seat. And he lost with 48.5% of the vote. Now, I'm sure many of y'all have gone through campaigns where you've worked every day as hard as you could, but you lost. And it's hard. It's very hard, especially when you're that close. And back then, we didn't have electronics and spreadsheets, so when the votes would come in, he'd write the precincts down on the yellow tab, on the tablet. He'd add up the numbers, and he'd add them again and add them again, and they still wouldn't add up. But the next morning, we rose before sunrise, and we went out to the Ford factory, shook hands, and thanked people for their support and for their votes. What I learned from that first loss was that persistence matters, that you have to get up the next day and work even harder. It reminded me that failure is not forever, and we need to be reminded of that today. The next election was the same. He went back the second time and lost again. Little less percent of the vote, but he was running when Jimmy Carter was running, and he'd already announced before Carter announced, and he knew when Carter announced that he was going to have to run as hard as he could all year just to stay even. And he did a pretty good job. But he ran that third time and won. Let me just say, having lost first and then won, it's a lot more fun to win, but you can survive the losses, don't worry. But I think it's so important for us to remember right now that failure is short if you get back up and work hard. And the recent election is the result of our opponents winning based on rhetoric and articulation over policy and platform. The consequences are enormous. Not only are they spending all of our money, but all of our children's money rapidly. I love the fact they're going to half the deficit after they tripled it For those that are into math, you know that's really a large increase. That does not work. And they're planning on doubling our national debt in the next decade. But this rapid government intervention is more than just pre-spending our tax dollars. It's getting into every part of our lives, every little bit of our lives, whether it's banking, insurance, automotive companies, corporate pay, soon, the try on health care, and we're pushing back enormously. But I think where we are is we really have to articulate to the nation a very clear choice and to convey a vision of our country that resonates with the majority of Americans. A vision that clearly communicates to Americans the importance of their role, of your role in American history and in our future. The importance of Americans today, they need to understand, we need to understand that we're a link between the history we have as a nation and to the future. And it's our job to bridge that link in such a way that we create the future that we want for ourselves, our children, and our grandchildren. Why is this so important, you might say? It's this sense of belonging, of being part of something bigger than ourselves. That's what provides meaning in our lives. This sense of belonging, being rooted, feeling like I've come home when I come to this great gathering, knowing that we're in this together, that we're working together, that we're making a difference. It turns each of us into that link from history into posterity, and it means that we're part of the great American story. So what is our American story, you might say? You have your own story in your life. You've probably seen most of my story of my life. But what's the American story? Well, historically, we're a nation of makers and risk takers, entrepreneurs, innovators. We're hard workers. Theodore Roosevelt, a champion of the strenuous life, said, "I wish to preach the doctrine of the strenuous life, the life of toil and effort, of labor and strife." We're workers. We're a nation of liberators, lovers of freedom, and believers in God. This belief in God provides us with optimism, of the belief of a brighter future, and an understanding of our importance in the context of a wider pattern of life. We live in a country of opportunity for settlers. Immigrants can arrive penniless on Ellis Island, and they can work hard, dream big, and become successful. The role of government has been to provide safety and rule and peace of law. And our goal as individuals, our job was to work hard, right, and be successful. And that's why Dad and I wrote our book, to dream big, to work hard, to learn every day, enjoy life, and to be true to yourself. Those are individual responsibilities. That's what individuals can do. Unfortunately, we are experiencing a boom of government intervention, and in the case of GM, the undermining of law. But I think the defining question we're going to face as a nation is, are we going to be a nation of makers or a nation of takers? Do we want to provide equal opportunity for everyone to be able, as the Declaration of Independence says, to pursue their happiness, or do we want the government to figure out what might make us happy and give it to us? All the time reviewing what we've received from them. The importance of these principles, the 5 principles I mentioned, are so important to us that we took the time to sit down and write them out, and we included, it's a fun book, it has stories about Dad, stories about me, my stories about Dad, which I love, obviously. But we also have 42 contributors that provide their stories about their lives.